First thing I wanted to do when I think of erotica poetry, I think of Charles Baudelaire. And there's one special poem by him called Her Hair that I've always loved. I've always loved long hair on women. I think every woman from 5 to 80 should have long hair. It's just, Lou Harris had her hair cut. It was a dark day in hell for her. But anyway, I prefer the Dover Thrift translation. I think it's more flowing and beautiful and sensuous, but I couldn't find my copy. I went to the library and I couldn't find Her Hair there. So I found this volume of his Flowers of Evil, some of the most erotic poetry ever written. And this one is called Head of Hair, so this translation will have to do. Oh fleece, billowing even down the neck. Oh locks, oh perfume charged with nonchalance. What ecstasy to people our dark room, with memories that sleep within this mane. I'll shake it like a kerchief in the air. Languorous Asia, scorching Africa, a whole world distant, vacant, nearly dead, lives in your depths, so forest of perfume, while other spirits sail on symphonies. Mine, my beloved, swims along your scent. I will go down there where the trees and men, both full of sap, swoon in the ardent heat. Strong swelling tresses carry me away. Yours, sea of ebony, a dazzling dream of sails, of oarsmen waving pennants, masts. A sounding harbor where my soul can drink from great floods' subtle tones, perfumes and hues. Where vessels gliding in the moor and gold open their wide arms to the glorious sky, where purely trembles the eternal warmth. I'll plunge my drunken head, dizzy with love, in this black sea where that one is confined. My subtle soul that rolls in its caress will bring you back, O fertile indolence, infinite lulling, leisure steeped in balm. Blue head of hair, tent of spread shadows, you give me the azure of the open sky. In downy wisps along your twisted locks, I'll gladly drug myself on mingled scents, essence of cocoa oil, pitch and musk. For ages always in your heavy mane, my hand will scatter ruby, sapphire, pearl, so you will never chill to my desire. Are you not the oasis where I dream, my drinking gourd for memory's fine wine? Now, I had promised a couple of friends I was going to dig out a poem I wrote about the Times Square CD scene back in the 70s when I lived in New York, called, I thought I could fill the room, but, called Times Square, or Look at the Cedar Side of Things, or Sex Zombies, and I couldn't find it. In fact, I hurt my back a couple weeks ago. I was digging things out from under the bed looking for 2 hours last night and this morning, and I pulled my back out again. But that will happen again. So I just have a couple things that might fit the mold here. This one's called A Letter from an Old Friend for Jean. A friend who was more than a friend, but was a friend. You know how that goes. To hear a welcome note of greeting from a close friend cast off from one's life for a while is akin to the birth of a full moon in an unlit winter wilderness. Refreshing, warming, and sound. So good to know that somewhere the delightful moments spent together grab hold of the seams of two souls and keep them ever hewn onto the fabric of fulfillment. That is the touch and the joy of discovering a pleasant company immune to the ravages of distance or time. A certain subtle fever that only friendship can provide. A flake of love that can never melt in the sun because its fragility is so very rare. I think one thing to remember for Erotica Night, it was Carl Jung who said, all things sexual are spiritual and all things spiritual are sexual. And Carl Jung, to me, was the man who almost connected everything in the universe. So, you know, speaking of whom, I used to write dream poems when I was very heavily into Carl Jung, under the theory that if you joined the creative conscious with elements of the collective unconscious through their dreams, I could create yet a third autonomous creative entity. And damn near blew my psyche apart, and I stopped after a while. But I got a few that I liked, and this one always stayed with me, and I guess it has to speak for itself, being what it is, but it's called The Temptress on a Bed in a Patio Garden. She was young and soft when she came to me, long, dark, wild hair and soft, warm breasts, whiter than the tan of her flesh. And we came together and cuddled and lay in the fresh openness of the bed in the garden, absorbing the moist essence of our gentle passions without lust and without guilt, speaking not a word, and feeling satisfied by our brief, frolicking nap in the sun. We raised and I watched as she departed lightly into the foliage, and I was more fully enriched than any intercourse could ever have consummated. Our sex was more alive than any sweaty tumbling, and I wonder if I'll see or touch her again. But she never left. I feel her always. A couple more. The Gettysburg Room. Went out with a lady named Elizabeth for a few years, and we had this fascination. I'm a Civil War buff. With Gettysburg, and she was writing a book about Gettysburg, so we called our frolic room the Gettysburg Room. But she lived in an old house in Cape May that was reputed to be haunted by an old sea captain, and we used to the hardy har, and sometimes we pretend we hear things. But one night we were there, and heard somebody come home and up the stairs, and I thought it was her daughter Amy. And I mean, it was so sure that we jumped out, got dressed, and we went out to the hall to meet her, and she wasn't there. And to this day, I believe that it was this entity. It's the first time, I could actually feel the presence. I was so sure there was somebody out there when I went out to greet them, and I thought it was her daughter. Okay. So we'll just leave it at that. But this is called the Gettysburg Room for Elizabeth. Footsteps from the past scamper through to the time of our lives, taking a tour of friendship beyond its worldly scope, engaging in curious battle, the histories of two netherworlds, tracks left for us to explore as we lay entwined on a bed of uncertainty, unsure where the next specter will launch its activity into our night of delight. Perhaps a sentry to survey each of our delicious touchings. Perhaps a soldier from a lost Civil War brigade, chiding the romance he will never live to know. Spirits dwell well here, feathers in the pillows, covers on the bed, and we clutch in snug abandon, despite these clamors of phantom prophecy. Begone! There is no more room at the inn. This and one more now. I guess nobody here needs to have any explanation what a Wawa is, right? And I had a crush on the counter girl there, behind the counter, and she was married with children, and so this is where we always have to say, just call the Wawa girl. She doesn't know how, I'm sorry. She doesn't know I could love her if she was unattached. This cheese she sliced melting over my tuna with her warm embrace. I always thought that was kind of nice. Now this one might be kind of, or I don't know, this just jumped into my head. I have some relationship poems out there I'm going to read tonight because I never read them before, and I don't think I'm going to start now because I didn't get the girl. Anyway, it's called The Dream. It's from a volume called The Dream That Never Happened. So. Oh. All right. You want me to break my damn heart on David?
Last call.
Last call for alcohol, man.
All right. Well, let me do the one I was going to do.
You're gonna have to go home, but you can't stay here.
The hook's coming out, man.
Facetious Lessons. I wrote this when I was 19. Somehow it stuck with me. I don't know why. It may fit, it may not. Facetious Lessons. Let's be absurd in piles of shit, pretend this lousy game's a fake, and dream of luscious tadpole tit while bass are pissing in the lake. Oh, sink a hole into the ground like militant moles, long lost and round, when deeply dug fill tunnels up with shampooed rug and size D cup. A curve's a cruddy ball to pitch to drunken batters at the plate. Now caution that cocky son of a bitch. Even late is growing late.